Living with any type of mental health issue is not easy, and caring for someone affected by mental illness is not easy either. Mental health issues can have a ripple effect on families, and different members are likely to be affected differently. Given that the family plays a crucial role in the well-being of a member who has mental illness, there is need for families to be more involved on mental health matters, especially on how to help someone going through mental illness and at the same time take care of your mental health. We are joined tonight by Jane Ngatia, a counseling psychologist, to take us through the topic mental health in families. You can follow us live on our YouTube and Facebook pages at Hope TV Kenya, and that's the handle. And you can share this link with a friend and a family member, and let's get to learn together. You can also engage with us for any question or comment. Our SMS line is 22232. And our WhatsApp line is 0708 222 Good evening and welcome to Health Check. My name is Grace Mutiso. I hope that you had a beautiful start of the week and great Easter season. At this point, to discuss mental health in families as our topic of today, allow me to invite Jane Ngatia. Good evening, Jane.
Good evening.
How have you been?
I have been very well. I thank God for taking us through.
Yes.
And for our reminders of Jesus Christ, our Savior.
Yes.
And the reason why we live today and we are forgiven. I thank God for that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you're looking beautiful this evening.
Thank
in
you.
Pink and maroon.
Thank you. That's part of the mental health.
Looking good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. A very important topic we have today about mental health, especially in families. And the first question to you, why is it important to have a family that is mentally healthy?
Well, families are very, very important. And that is a very important question that every family should take seriously. That families need to be healthy because families are a unit that actually contribute to a healthy society. We are talking about a healthy nation, a healthy country, but ideally what makes that country stable and healthy is because we have the units that come together to make the society. So for families, we cannot take anything to chance. We need mental stability, we need mental health, so that we can be able to build the bigger society. We can furthermore be able to contribute even to the wellness of that particular family. Families operate like, allow me to say,
yes,
like a machine, for lack of better words here. And that machine has to be running.
Yes.
And that is what makes it a bit difficult and disorienting for any family if there's a member, part of that, an element of that unit that is not operating well. So if there's a member of the family who has mental instability, who is not mentally well, then it means the entire system is affected, and it will not run. Think of a car engine. If there's an element in it that is not operating properly, that is failing, the entire engine, no matter how small that part is, will fail.
Yes.
And that is how families are like. So we need stable families in terms of mental wellness, because mental wellness is the entire health of a person and, ultimately for the family.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've gone ahead and just described what is mental health and just the well-being of the entire person.
It is actually the total wellness.
Yeah.
If we are thinking about mental health is a subset of many other areas. And when a person is mentally unhealthy, because that seems to be the cornerstone of everything. We know there's also something about physical wellness, spiritual wellness, and all that. But the mental illness is the foundation.
Yes.
When people are not mentally well, physically, they will not also be well. They will not be able to work. That's about occupation.
Yeah.
They will not also be able to probably even have stable spiritual life. So mental illness, I would say, is everything.
Yes.
It is actually the real health that we can talk about.
Okay.
And that totality is very important, and it is determined by that element of the mental wellness. Remember, we are talking about the brain functions, because mental wellness has to do with our cognitive functions, the way we perceive, the way we behave, the way we feel, because our brains control everything about human beings. And so when our brain functions are affected because we are not mentally well, then it means everything else is affected, and all the other systems of that individual will not work.
Yeah.
And that now has a deeper effect to the family where that individual comes from.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, when I was growing up, Jane, when you could hear the word mental health, what it was identified with is this person has gone mad. Is that true? And if not, then help us differentiate between mental health and mental illness.
Oh, thank you. That is very important also. First of all, I know people will say the person is mad because they probably do not understand how to describe it. But the word madness is actually part of the stigma. And we are also saying that we do not want people who have mental illness to be stigmatized.
Yes.
We need to embrace them. We need to understand them. We need to support them, especially at family level, so that that effect can also go to the society.
Yeah.
When a person is supported at the family level, the society is likely also to support. So we need not use even that term, but we understand for us in that field, because people may not know how to describe that. So mental illness probably will be defined as that dysfunctional aspect of a person in terms of their coordination at the brain level. They have an illness. And by the way, mental illness is an illness like any other. I don't know why we do not stigmatize a person when they say, I have a fever, I have hypertension, I have diabetes, and so on and so forth. We do not stigmatize them. We don't even blame them.
No.
But when they develop a mental illness, which is an illness like any other that may affect the body, we are very quick to judge. Maybe they did something that shouldn't have been done. Maybe there's a curse. Well, we do not want to discuss the issue of curses, but they do exist. But seriously, we need to be able to differentiate mental illness from other things that may happen, that may have generational issues and so on. So now, that is mental illness when a person is disturbed, when there's a part of their functions, particularly to do with the brain, that is not functioning well. There is a disconnect somewhere. There's an interruption in the systems of the brain, so to speak. And so a person is considered to have a mental illness or mental disturbance. Sometimes we may even take it further to call it psychological disturbance. They are not able to manage themselves and they need support. So a person is not well then when they have that interruption of their body mechanisms, particularly the brain functions.
Okay.
That's it. And I think it's good for our society to understand, and even for families that unfortunately could be living with a person with a mental illness. Probably that part of how to support them is also very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now because of that, you're focusing on the family. Would you maybe share with us some of the common mental illnesses that, you know, families bring to you as a psychologist?
Yes, thank you. I'm a counseling psychologist by profession. It means I understand human behavior. That is a part of psychology. And I also influence behavior change by counseling them. That's more of talking. Sometimes we may even call it talk therapy. So I don't give medication. Now, the difference here, I would deal with the more manageable issues of mental wellness, like stress, We actually call it distress because we also have positive stress, which is called eustress. Eustress is what motivates you, Grace, to come to work. For instance, you are running late. That was like I was already running late to get to this studio.
Yes.
And I was experiencing eustress, that power, that force that makes me want to do anything so that I get to where I want to go, to achieve my goals and so on. That is positive stress. So not all stress is bad. Yes. Then we have distress, which is negative. That one will affect anyone negatively.
Yes.
In terms of compounding the person, incapacitating them, causing them not to be able to do their work or even to think clearly. Then we have anxiety disorders. Sometimes people experience anxiety from time to time. Grace, sometimes I understand why the Bible warns about anxiety.
Yes.
Do not be anxious about anything.
Yes.
That's a very powerful teaching from the Bible.
Yes.
Because anxiety can actually attract a lot of other mental disturbances. When we remain anxious for too long, medics and psychiatrists will tell us that will affect our heart, and we can easily develop cardiovascular diseases or diseases related to the heart systems and so on. That is anxiety. It is a very dangerous kind of psychological disturbance and definitely part of our mental wellness. So we have to deal with anxiety, we have to deal with the issues, and for me, I would deal with the underlying issues. What is causing this anxiety? Let's look at it. Is it a problem that we can solve? What options do we have? When people are distressed, what is the source of this distress? That one does not need medication.
No.
We can deal with it at counseling level. And that's why we have the counseling psychologists who are able to manage all that. And of course, sometimes people experience depression from time to time, even at family level. When things are not working, it is normal. We have what we call normal depression.
Which
it will
one is
happen.
that? Yes.
Being caught in a traffic jam, somebody feels awful. You feel so bad, or something had just gone wrong, and you feel very sad, but temporarily, maybe for hours, maybe for a day or two, but beyond 2 weeks, then that becomes clinical depression, and we need a psychiatrist or a medical personnel to be able to deal with that.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, Jen, as you're talking, as you're sharing, I'm just thinking, stress, depression, anxiety, they sound almost similar because I'm at that point of I'm not operating normally. Would you help us identify where the line is drawn, where the line says here is stress? You know, usually we use stress casually. Say, Leon, in a stress, maybe I just mean I'm having a hard day. So what's the difference between stress? What would be the symptoms that this person has? What would be the symptoms of somebody who is anxious? And what would be the symptoms of somebody who has depression?
Wow, that's a very important question, Grace. I like it because our families watching out there will be able to understand this. Yes, everything begins as just, something has gone wrong. And things go wrong for all of us at one time or another. So we get distressed. We get distressed because something is not working to our purpose or towards our goals. Then that which is distress, if it hangs on there, could also attract a cousin. I call them cousin, in quotes and quotes, called anxiety. So the person now continues to feel so bad, and then anxiety sets in. Sometimes anxiety and distress may come together, may arrive together, but one may arrive later. Depending on what the issue is. So we call it chronic anxiety. When it hangs on there, when something is not going well, and we keep on anticipating something bad will happen. Like I'm getting late to work, I might be fired. A child at home, I'm getting late and I must be home by 6 p.m. My parents will tell me to go back. That's anxiety. And if it keeps on hanging on there, it becomes chronic and it actually attracts even anger. Sometimes when we are angry for too long, there will also be anxiety of what next, what
Yes.
next. So let me say, in short, all these psychological issues, areas of mental illness, will actually come as a package at times.
Yeah.
But definitely depression, we all experience when anxiety, distress are hanging on, depression may also come in. Depression is a mood disorder.
Yes.
And when our mood feels down or feels terrible for a long time, then the person may be pronounced to have clinical depression. Anything beyond 2 weeks that keeps a person down, that they are not able to operate normally, and they have that low mood. Of course, there could be other cluster symptoms
Yes.
that can be put together, and maybe those are details for the people in the profession. Anything beyond 2 weeks that hangs on there with a mood disorder, sadness, and all that, inability to work, that can now be categorized as clinical depression.
Yes.
And the person will require medication so that their hormonal balances can be brought to the desired level. That psychiatrists work on.
Yes.
And they give medication. I know many people fear medication that is given by psychiatrists. And there shouldn't be any fear. If we don't fear, when we are given medication for a headache,
Yes.
why are we fearing this other? It's meant to bring us back to normality, to functions in a normal way. So that sometimes can be a package. It's a chain of things. And that is why, Grace, it is important for our people, for families, not to entertain any distress for such a long time.
Yes.
Not to entertain anxiety. When a member is anxious about something, it needs to be sorted out by the family as quickly as possible, because eventually that will infect in quotes, the other members. As I explained earlier, that a family is a system.
Yes.
So we need not allow any part of that system to break down. Because when it breaks down completely, now it means the person will be put on medication, sometimes long-term medication, and that has its own challenges,
Yes.
even for the entire family.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're joining us right now, you are on Health Check right here at Top TV. Look and Live. I'm hosting Jane Ngatia. She is a counseling psychologist helping us with the discussion on mental health in families. And ensure you engage with us. You're also live on YouTube and Facebook. Our handle is at Top TV Kenya. Now, Jane, how can a family member identify that one of them has a mental health issue, either mental illness or any other mental health issue?
Wow, what a good question that you ask. This will help us to understand something about being caring at the family level. A family being a system that operates is best placed to identify that person, that element, so to speak, that is not doing its job. For instance, I'm in a family. I have adult children.
Yes.
And if I live with them in the house, or they live far away, and I call them and I can hear, this person sounds like in distress, I should be able to tell that there's something wrong. If I live with some family members, including my spouse,
Yes.
and I see there's something he's not doing that normally he does, he's not interested in even commitment of doing anything for the family or even for himself. Sometimes it starts with them. Then that should be a red flag, so to speak. That's a signal that there's something wrong. So the family just have to look out for behavioral
Yes.
symptoms. How is the person behaving? Are they behaving normally? Are they behaving as expected? Are they actually contributing to the family welfare as it should be?
Yes.
Are they doing their part? Because in a family, every member have a function, including that small child,
Yes.
is still holding
True.
somewhere for the system to run. So that is how we can tell. The same way we tell a person is sick. Probably they may not have complained of pain, but we can actually see they are either limping or they are not able to sit properly. There is something that is amiss.
Yes.
It is also very easy to tell about a person who is not in mental wellness state. Yeah.
So behaviors are keen. That means as if it's in children, a parent must really be keen to observe how your children behave.
True.
Yeah.
And especially the older children, because the very young one,
You can tell.
below 12 years,
Yes.
it's not easy to tell their mental status, but you can tell they are emotionally unstable.
Yes.
Maybe it's easy for us to tell if there are other developmental issues that they have. But in terms of, depression and all that, although the child will also show sadness,
Yes.
maybe lack of play, they are not interested in play. Children naturally love play and running about, with other children or with other adults. So if we see that, it is also important that we take the necessary action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else apart from behavior that one can look out for? Because I've had cases where people have said they were just normal. Then one day they woke up, something has happened.
Yes, and probably they even terminated their own life, like it has happened many times.
Yes.
Yeah, fortunately, with mental illness, there will always be a signal of one kind or another. Or the person may just verbalize, oh, things are not working for me, I feel hopeless, I feel helpless, I don't know what to do. They will say something.
Yes.
If they are engaged in a conversation, they will talk about something.
Yes.
So it is still possible to tell that is something that is not amiss. Or they will just show maybe or indicate inappropriate anger. Inappropriate anger, something out of proportion. They are kicking things around where they are passing,
Yes.
or they don't want anything to do with people, and they are saying, leave me alone. And you can see the mood is not very good. So every family should be concerned when a family member seems to change in a certain direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're living in the generation, Jane, where parents are living on that end of the world or the country and the other end of the country. How can we ensure that we are in touch, so as to be able to notice either a change in behavior, a change in mood of a child?
That's important, and it has to do with family communication. How often do family members communicate?
Yeah.
Because that communication is the link that will actually help the family members to know that there's one of them who is not doing well. Remember, a family never ceases to be a family. Even when some members moved out of home. By the way, even when a member of the family die, we still count them in. We keep saying, and we were 8, now we are 7, and there was so and so. And even in obituaries, surgery, we still include them. Now, they never cease to be part of the family. Once born in a family, they will always remain. So it means that we also need to keep in touch. We need to engage family communication. For instance, I have a daughter who is married. I need once in a while just to talk to her, encourage her, talk to me, let my son-in-law also talk to me, of course, so that I don't end up separating people who are together. Talk to me, talk to us, visit us, home is open for you. That is to encourage them so that in the event there's something that is not working well, they are comfortable talking even to their parents, whichever side they wish to. So that is to establish that this family member is not doing very well, because mental wellness can actually be affected by anything. It can even be marriage, it can be violence, it can be loss of job, financial crisis, it can be anything. And like now you can expect with the hard times that we are facing in our country, Kenya, too many people will come up with mental issues. Some will be triggered, they already have underlying issues, and others will develop, the anxiety of what about tomorrow? What next? And, all that. I don't know how to pay my bills and so on. So all those are anxiety-provoking issues. And so they need to be settled. Families need to outthink the situation. Because stress is here with us. Actually, I like saying stress started in the Garden of Eden. That's where Adam and Eve were so distressed, I imagine.
Yeah.
They were even depressed. I mean, but God healed them.
Yes.
They were even so anxious. The behavior could tell.
Yes.
That was anxiety. So these things are here with us, but fortunately, God has given every human being the capacity, every family, every country, the capacity to outthink the situation, so that something can be done, because human brain remains superior. We can always do something so that we suppress and we bring stress to a manageable level.
Okay.
Anxiety and depression and all those other mental illness that are medical, I mean, that are quite serious, like schizophrenia, is actually a very serious mental illness that is dreaded by anyone in the world. And that's where now the madness issue comes from. So we can bring them to manageable levels. There's no disease, there's no illness, call it mental, call it physical, call it whatever, that cannot be managed.
Okay.
It can.
It can.
And there's hope, Grace,
Yes.
for families, for our country,
Yes.
and for the international community.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we go on a quick break, Jane, let's talk about mental illness in children and young people. You know, what are the causes of that and how can we prevent that?
Well, children, yes. I get fascinated by children, because, you know, children do not have too many people who talk for them.
Yes.
Yes, children below 12 years, we can be able to establish that they are not well, especially their mental, their emotional status. If they are not looking very happy, they are not playful, and causes normally will be probably a change in the environment. If a child is moved from where they are used to, they are taken to a different living environment without probably prior preparation, particularly if the child can speak.
Yes.
If the child is able to understand that we are moving from here to another place, we are moving new schools, from this school to another because of, you know, A, B, C, D, they get disoriented.
Yes.
And they can actually get very anxious because they are losing friendship.
Yeah.
They are losing environmental or spatial orientation. And that to a child is very, very serious and important.
Drastic change.
Yeah, drastic change, or even child abuse. If the child is not getting along with maybe the caretaker, the caregiver,
Yes.
or even the parents themselves, or even parents have separated, like in separation, divorce, in marriage, all those are things that can cause a child's mental wellness to be destabilized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a child. And a young person?
Or the young persons, teenagers, adolescents, in that bracket, sometimes it is because of the things they are experiencing. Hormonal imbalances can actually cause distress, anxiety. For teenagers, you know, the changes that happen because of developmental tasks. Sometimes if they are in school, you know, the peer pressure is too much. They want to be like that other a person, young person. There's so much that go on, you know, and teenagers and adolescents have this kind of hypothetical thinking that, oh, I can do everything.
Yes.
And they take risks in their lives. And those are things that cause them stress if things don't work the way they idealize, you know, the way they thought it would work out, because they don't think that they can be defeated.
Yes.
Both girls and boys, it is mostly because of their, you know, hypothetical thinking and their way of assuming that everything is a straight line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And is there anything we can do as parents to avoid, you know, our children and young people from experiencing mental illness?
As probably I would put it, talk to your child, to your son. By the way, in parenting,
Yes.
there is no parent who ever graduates. That is one school where no one graduates and no one is told that they have done it all. We are always parents all the way, even when children leave home. So parents need to establish a very good relationship with their young children, especially teenagers and adolescents, because they have too many influences out there.
Yeah.
When they go out into the world, there are too many advisors. So they can always, you know, have a backdrop with their parents. They can always counter check with what their parents tell them. And if their parents are their best friends, in the absence of parents, the caregivers. Whoever takes care of that, the guardian, the friend of that teenager, the friend of that adolescent, they need to establish a very close relationship of trust so that this young person can trust their guardian.
Yes.
They can trust their parents, and they can tell them anything. Even what is unimaginable,
Yes.
they will share with them. So that closeness is very important. Finding out what is your child, what is your son, your daughter going through, checking with them from time to time, putting them close, involving them in family discussions, in family deliberations.
Why is that important?
Yes.
You know, most of the times as parents would just make a decision and let the children flow with it.
Yes.
And we are learning tonight that can affect their mental health.
Very much, very much. Memorandum of understanding at family level is very important.
Yes.
Just that young person expressing themselves, saying what they are not happy about, what the parents, maybe apologizing to the parent, maybe the parent apologizing to the child. You know, we also do stuff that provoke them.
Yes.
So that kind of round table family meeting is always very critical. It is important. It makes people move on in a better way, in a more healthy manner, and they are likely to sustain the family mental wellness for a longer time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm hosting Dr. Jane Ngatia, a counseling psychologist, with us on Health Check this evening. We are focusing on mental health in families. Allow us to have this quick break. When we come back, we'll be going on to more of the questions. So where do we get help if I've discovered I have a family member who has a mental illness or a mental health issue? Keep it right here, Top TV. Look and Live. We'll be back shortly.
Hope TV is where you look and live, with an excellent selection of the best Christian programming consisting of local and international content of inspirational stories, talk shows, Bible commentary, youth, health shows, children entertainment, contemporary gospel music, extended times of worship, live broadcast, news, movies, drama, Christian ministry programs, and so much more. Hope TV is another quality service from Christ is the Answer Ministries, with over 45% of authentic and credible local content every week. Hope TV is a sister station to Hope FM, Kenya's leading Christian radio station, with footprints across the country. Tune in to Hope TV, where you look and live.
Welcome back. You're on Hope TV, Look and Live. This is Health Check. My name is Grace Mutiso. We are focusing on mental health in families, and I'm hosting Jane Ngatia, a counseling psychologist, with us in studio. So Jane, we promised when we're coming back, you'll be helping us know. So what is the right time for a family member to seek help, you know? And I've discovered a family member has a mental illness. Where do I take them?
Wow, what a good question. I would start by saying we are available as counseling psychologists to support. If it's not too bad, we can be able to assess that behavior. We can be able to explore. We call it exploration in counseling. We can be able to come up with options that you change the situation that is causing trouble. We can be able to develop an action plan. So counseling psychologists are available.
Yes.
And we are more than willing. We are many of us. We are more than willing to help and ensure that we have stable families as far as mental health is concerned. In counseling, nothing bad happens. A lot of people also fear going for counseling because of the stigma associated with, are they mad again? You know, that word we say.
Yes.
Could they be mad? Could they be, could they be weak? No.
Yes.
Counseling is for the strong and the strong-willed.
Wow.
It is for those who really want to see change for better.
Yes.
So go to a counselor. You can always call. These days, we can always Google. We can check. I am available as Jane Ngatia, and I can be able to, handle, but probably not everything.
Yes.
And once they go to a counselor, if things are not so bad, if the story has just begun,
Yes.
they will be helped.
So the starting point is a counseling psychologist.
Good.
Okay.
And that means the person had already talked about it as family level, and they have not come up with a solution that will support the person to feel better.
Yes.
So if that fails, even with the illness, we always start with some salt. I have sore throat. I try some salt. I try that kind of
The concoction.
self-medication.
Yes.
Then we realize, oh, it's not working.
Yes.
I need better help. So the same thing with the mental health. If it's not too bad, and the family realize it's beyond their ability to handle, let them refer the person to a counseling psychologist in this country.
Yes.
And if the counseling psychologists realize that they are not also able to handle that because the person requires medication, they refer. And we refer to a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist is a very friendly medical personnel.
Actually, most people
should
fear.
not fear. People should not fear. I'm saying fear is another area of mental illness.
Oh.
So we should not complicate anything by fearing to go here or there.
Yes.
Yes. So we need to visit them. I may refer,
Yes.
or any other counseling psychologist, done based on the assessment, may refer that person to a psychiatrist because they need a combination of counseling and medication. And I would not give medication because I'm not a medical personnel in that area.
Yes.
So they need to be diagnosed, even the specific area of their mental illness.
Yes.
It could actually be more serious. They'll be checked for any allergic reactions because of the medication, and they'll be well,
Yes.
and they'll be stable. We work as a team.
Yes.
And that is the kind of arrangement that should happen. And grace, again, I repeat, needless, though, that people should not fear visiting counseling psychologists or counselors, as normally many people will call us, visiting a psychiatrist. If things are too bad,
Yes.
let that person be taken to a hospital where now the medical personnel will be able to separate. Is this mental illness? Could it be a different issue?
Yes.
So they need to go to hospital if the person is completely incapacitated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I'm hearing you say, counseling psychologist is more of talk therapy to find out what are the underlying issues.
Yes.
If any needs medication or goes to psychiatrist.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some of the treatment options, if you are able to share with us, from a counseling point of view, for someone with depression and anxiety, because they are top, they are top in terms of mental illness?
Wow. First, let me assure the viewer that counseling is treated as a private engagement. It is confidential up to a certain level.
Yeah.
And especially if my client, when you come to see me, you become my client.
Yes.
So if my client has not posed any threat or danger to themselves, I keep confidentiality. They share with me their personal experiences, their personal materials, including even the history of that particular experience of anxiety. They may not be able to call it anxiety, but I'll be able to interpret that. They may not call it even chronic distress, depression, but I'll be able to do that.
Yes.
Because I may also give them tools that help me to establish the severity. And that is where now the dividing line comes, that I stay with a person or I refer them for further management to a psychiatrist or medical personnel. So now, during counseling, something good happens.
Yes.
And I would like people to know that something good happens.
Tell us.
It's actually talk therapy. You just talk anything that you feel like, talk about anything that has offended you, talk about your history. Sometimes people will talk about their childhood and maybe they are 30 years, but they remember something that happened when they were 10 years, and that is still haunting them. And probably now the body has reached the optimum of the resilience. So sometimes it could even be something that happened long time ago. And parents are not even aware. The person is not even aware that whatever is eating them is that wound, is that scar that happened when they were in their tender years. So they need to tell me the whole history, including even their experiences in school. Where did they go to school? Did anything major happen in school? Did they like even the school they were in? You know, I have to listen to the entire story. And then I'm able to pick the pieces. And I'm able to bridge them. You know, we are building bridges that have been broken. So I'm able to give back to them and tell them, this is what I've heard from you. And in my assessment, this is what seems to be disturbing you. That happened when you were 7 years old, and now you are 30 years old, and the scar has refused to go. We need to start working on it. We need to backtrack. And then we look at the options in which the person can work through that. Because whatever happened today is probably just a trigger to what has been underlying. So it's a good experience. And people always say that, wow, they even breathe out. Oh, my burden. I feel like my burden has been lifted. You know, ultimately, burdens are lifted at Calvary. But in counseling, God has given us the ability, has given us the, what I may call the intelligence and the expertise to be able to make one and one to, you know, the equation comes to something. So people should not fear. That's simply what happens. But we spend some time together, probably an hour, maybe 1.5 hours, because we need to interact with the life history of that person. And they should not fear. And that story is not shared outside that room. So nobody should fear, unless the person wants that person to be involved in their story.
You know, you've talked about scars, you know, from growing up, and not many people think that's an issue. If you went through a tough time, you know, in a family setup, your dad did something, your mom did something, a relative did something, and how that can affect you mentally as a grown-up. Are you able to share some common things we do to our children and we think it's okay, but when they grow up, they're 40, they're 30, it comes up and messes up their mental health until they have to seek help?
Yes, and Grace, sometimes it is so sad that whatever happened earlier in the person's life can haunt them to a level of they have reached the end of the rope. They have touched the string and they can only break off. And that's where we hear somebody took their life. They have been contemplating all along because nothing seemed to change. And that past keep on haunting them. Parents dealing with children and teenagers and adolescents need to realize that the self-esteem of that person starts at the family level. We parents build the self-esteem. We build the confidence of that child, of that young person. So telling a child, oh, you are not as good as, things we should never do to children include comparing. Thank you, Grace. You have already got it. Comparing children, ignoring children.
What do you mean by ignoring?
When a child is speaking to you, Grace, I want to assume it's your child. They are telling you about school. They are very excited about their friends, how a child was knocked down, how a child was forgot their sweater. To them, that is the story. That is their world. And you refuse to listen. And you are busy cooking. And you say, oh, go to the sitting room, go do your homework, I'll listen another time. That is equivalent to ignoring a child. You don't want to listen to their story. And they get terribly upset. So upset that they may never forgive you.
In that small world of
that small world of children. Children have their own world. If you ventured into it, if there's a way you became a child and joined that world, you'd be amazed. There's so much in the world of children. And so that comparison, putting the child down, telling them they can't, we should never tell a child they can't. They can. We enable them. We help them. We guide them. And we tell them, yeah, including dressing themselves, including doing their hair and all that. They can.
Oh,
We manage ourselves because somebody enabled us.
Yes.
And today we do stuff for ourselves
Yes.
that children are not able to do
And
the
you
same
know,
way.
Sorry, one thing that is so common, in parents is no. The word no. You can't do that. No, no. Does that
That
also have
language
an
needs to
impact?
change, Grace. It's one of the terrible things that happen to a child. You know, when we tell them no, you can't, as opposed to, oh, let me show you how to do it.
Ah,
Oh, let me show you a different way. Oh,
Yes.
it's not done this way, it is
Yes,
done this
this
way. You
way.
see, now tomorrow you do it this way.
okay.
But that requires patience.
yes.
I think generally we have run out of patience, Grace, with everything. Just like I see it on our roads, patience is something we need to recall with a
Yes.
lot of stamina.
Yes.
We need it.
Yeah.
So it requires patience so that we walk with the child. It is called growing with the child.
Yes.
Don't run too fast as a parent. And you look back and it's like, where are you? Where are you left behind?
Hurry up.
We walk with them. We do the baby steps.
Yeah.
We know we can run,
Yes.
but we don't run because the child cannot run yet.
yes.
Yes, all the way to adolescence. We walk with them, we understand their world, and we stop saying things that, hurt their self-esteem.
Okay.
Remember, self-esteem is the driving engine.
Yes.
It is our driving engine. Without self-esteem, we are hopeless, we are finished.
Okay.
We are crushed. And that is where part of the wellness begins to give way.
Okay.
So we must build their self-esteem. Once a child is crushed and their engine stops, it will stop. And when they grow up, they will never want to take the front seat.
So those are the symptoms when they are mature.
Yes. They don't want to take the center stage.
Yes.
They cannot come to a TV show like this one,
Even
which is
if
very
they are
exciting,
able to.
even if they are able. They cannot get into certain careers, even though they may have the potential.
Yeah.
They cannot engage in relationships that are meaningful, even though they are ideally good people.
Yes.
They get into one that it breaks up because they don't believe in themselves. And it gets worse when someone else tells them, you can't. Who do you think you are in this relationship?
It takes
Now
them
the
back.
world crumbles.
Yeah.
Their world crumbles, and it takes a toll on them. That's all about mental wellness.
Yeah.
Some of the violence that happens, people are subjected, they become, kind of victims, if I may use that word here, of violence. It's because of the same thing.
Yeah.
Something happened. They can't stand up for themselves. They get stepped on and they don't raise a voice. In their offices, they can never take initiative. Why? They were told you can't. Write home and remember, the parent is the first school. The parenting school at home is the first school. And every child knows that their parents are heroes. So if the hero said you can't, who are you out there to say that they can? You see, it's serious.
A challenge there. To
It's a whole psychological,
Yeah.
tire
Okay.
kind of thing. Yeah, it's complicated.
One more before we wrap it up, Jane. So what support can one give if they identify there is this family member? It could be a child, it could be a grown-up who has a mental issue and they are harming themselves. Or even you've not identified it's a mental issue. You just come, you find a loved one harming themselves. Where do you start? And
That
what
is
support do you give?
serious. Grace, I couldn't even wait for you to finish. Sorry. Yes, that is very serious. And that is a person who is out to destroy themselves. Sometimes even school children cut their bodies with, knowing how painful it can be. They see themselves bleeding. They use a razor blade. They cut. They really don't care. They are numb. And they say, does it matter? They are punishing themselves because they do not like themselves. And that is self-destruction. It may graduate to a bigger thing where they take a bigger risk. Like they could just, drop themselves from some place. And that can be very serious. And when people end up now getting suicidal and even completing it, it just started like some kind of self-destruction. Some will go into drugs addiction. They hide there. That's a defense mechanism. Others will do stuff like what I've said, and so on and so forth. So it is all aimed at self-destruction. They do not like themselves. They don't see any good reason why they should be living. And they don't see any positive contribution that they are making to the family, first of all to themselves, to the family, and to the nation and the society where they are. So it can be a very sad situation, and it doesn't have to escalate to that level. And that's why we need to observe, even in offices.
Yes.
Check out on one another. Let's have a work relationship. Maybe the human resource managers have to do something to make sure that people work as a team to be able to identify that person who is pulling out of the string, of the circle.
Yes.
And that could be an indicator of mental health. It's actually collective responsibility. It starts with the individual, goes to family, goes to the bigger society, and I think together we can fight this animal. Sounds like a big elephant, but it can be fought. And mental illnesses, Grace Sandre, they are increasing by the day. That is the sad thing. But there is hope. We need not give up. We can support. Even neighbors. We need to see that neighbor, as you indicated earlier, who is harming themselves, who do not seem to talk anymore, yet they used to talk to us, and find out what could be happening. We are living in a world where people mind their business, but this is not the time. You need to mind the business of that other person, particularly in terms of their wellness.
Okay. As we wrap it up, Jane, so what tips could you give to us as your parting shot that can help us ensure we have a healthy family that is mentally well, as you put it at the beginning? What are some of the tips?
Wow, very good. We need to be talking to each other. We need to be communicating. Let's promote strong communication. And I like speaking to Kenyans, facing a camera, and speak to Kenyans and tell Kenyans that there is hope. There's so much that is not going well. There is economic crisis. There is all these stressors around us, rebellious children, parents who have no time. They have to hustle for the next bread or loaf of bread and so on. But there is hope. Let us keep communicating. Keep open communication. Keep your phones, your lines open. The same way you don't lock your phone. You keep it open just in case. There is that important call that could actually salvage a situation. And once we observe, let's refer. Let's not say it's not my business. It's them. They want to be sick. No, sickness cannot be a choice for anyone. So refer them to the relevant points of help. Refer them to a hospital, refer them to a counseling psychologist. If you know some, we can always Google for them. And here I am. You could always ask, and let us work together. Together, we can make a different society. We can make happier families as God intended us to have. We can make a better society. We can build a better Kenya. In Kenya, we need well people. We need mentally stable people to outthink the problems that we have in this country. They are numerous, but God is for us all. And we need to take the action that we need to do. And parents, remember not to put your children down. Please don't talk them down. Lift them, encourage them. We want to see healthy adults, and we can always tell that that adult we have today came from that child that was nurtured. Let's nurture our young ones so that the future generations can have fewer problems. And that's it. That's my word.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jane Ngatia, for finding time to join us tonight on Health Check. Very, very interesting conversation. I believe we can have this more and more. And of course, for you, our viewer, we continue the conversation online at Hope TV Kenya on Facebook and YouTube. Drop there a question and comment. We'll be glad to engage with you. Our take home is ensure you communicate, and observe if there are any changes around your loved ones that concerns you, and please seek help. We have clinical psychologists, we have psychiatrists, we have doctors. Walk into one of those offices, either of them, or just a hospital, and there is help for you. My name is Grace Mutiso. Thank you so much for joining us on Health Check this day. I wish you a blessed time. We do this again next week, God willing, on Tuesday from 7:30 all the way to 8:30. Have a beautiful evening and keep it Hope TV. Look and live.